And welcome back to part 11 of Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, where today, regardless of whether or not you agree to side with Mantra HQ or not, we're going to help them storm the assembly of Nihilo. So when you're good and ready, you'll be returning to Ginza, and then when you return to the world map, you'll be heading straight south. But whilst you're here, it's a good opportunity to stop by the jewellery shop, because you've picked up a large number of gems, especially when you were clearing out the underpass, that you might as well trade in to see what you can get for your trouble. I just wish this guy didn't talk. So there's a Soma droplet there, there's an attack and magic mirror down the bottom there, a track pipe, there's a Takaja rock, that Tetraja rock would be nice, that makes it so the next turn you're safe from instant kills. Because I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Yeah, protects against light and dark. So that's for a whole turn, protection against all instant kills, so they are very helpful. But you can also get elements here, like Eros here, and Mitamas. The elements of Mitamas are both entirely used only for fusion material. They are not expected even remotely to be used for battle. It's because they are just skill carriers that have very specific add-ons that they can add to demons, like getting new skills. The Mitamas especially, because when you go to fuse a Mitama with a demon, you'll notice that it's the same demon again, but with an up arrow or a down arrow. Certain Mitamas, depending on their level and stat distribution, will enforce a demon to D-level or increase its level. You can force demons to have their stats go up by a couple points or make them weaker so you can replace their stats with other stuff. Mitamas are basically your secret to min-maxing. If you want demons to be extremely powerful late game carriers and you got them early-ish, fusing them with Mitamas is how you're going to amp them up more and more as you go on. Just be wary that there are limiters of how far you can take it and what you can do with it. I showcase it a little later on, but that's not till later on. But when you come down here, the entrance to the Assembly Nihilo has been broken into and the Mantra crew are all here, celebrating a blatantly obvious premature victory. Like, the moment you run around here, you go, oh yeah, no, this isn't even remotely what it's telling us it is. But over here is the lift to get your way down, which I think, yeah, so I think past me avoids that because I want to check all the rooms first. There's not much here right now, so you can just kind of press on. Like, it's just nice to have a look around whilst there isn't any enemies here. Because before you come here into the Assembly of Nihilo, I cannot recommend it enough, grind up some items. But it's Nihilo, it's not Lily-Ho, I can't keep on saying Nihilo. But it's Nihilo. But grind up some stuff. Get some demons, like fuse some new demons together if you haven't in a while. Get some items together. Maybe grind a little in the Labyrinth of Amala if you're playing Maniacs of Chronicle. Just build yourself up a bit more. Not to be stronger, but to be more enduring. Because this dungeon is long. I do this whole dungeon in this video. When you keep in mind I skip pointless or repeating encounters, this was like an hour and 10 minutes. This entire dungeon. Like, from the moment it proper starts, which isn't even yet, from the moment it proper starts to when I finish it, it was like an hour and 10. And I cut it down to this. Because it's the Mantra not the Mantra HQ, that's where we just were. The Assembly of Nihilo, when you actually get into the main meat of the dungeon, it's the first real puzzle dungeon of the game, where they expect you to take a minute to stop, look at what the environment's doing, and work your way around through it. This item box is empty, by the way. Because the Mantra have already raided everything in here. I don't know why they felt the need to close the box after they opened it. Thanks, dicks. But they did anyway. But when you come down to B2, this is the core that the Mantra HQ think is the main core of the Assembly of Nihilo and that they have destroyed. So yeah, this is the core, the heart of destruction. At least it was. The whole thing happened pretty fast. So, was the report about needing 4 killers to unlock the core a hoax? I wonder if this is a fake. This is not the real one, and you just fell for it like a bunch of morons. Huh? I can hear something coming from the door. Hell, we won. What's there to worry about? Yeah, you keep telling yourself that, dude. When you enter the core, you'll get a cutscene. Will you enter the room? Yeah, we will. Let us in.
Thank God it's just you. I thought it was being ambushed. Way to give a guy a heart attack. Well, at least we're both here in one piece. Listen, I'm sorry I got you stuck last time. I know I screwed up, but It's actually a good thing I did. See, I never thought their base would be this massive. And had I sent you here alone, you'd be here all day scratching your head. That's because you wouldn't have me to clue you in. Anyway, the Mantra launched their attack at just the right time. Thanks to them, I was able to slip in unnoticed. Hey, call me crazy, but you didn't actually join the Mantra, did you?
No, I straight up declined Gozu Tenno to his face.
So it's just a rumor. You just seem a lot stronger, so I thought it might be true. My mistake. Moving along. This entire room is a facility for collecting Magatsuhi. We're at the center of the big hole you can see from outside. Since most of it got wrecked in the assault, it's no longer operational. Right before that, it was filled to the brim with Magatsuhi. Then those Mantra guys stormed in and busted up the place. And why wouldn't they? What else would this be but the Nihilo's very core? You'd think one might have stopped to consider that maybe they were playing right into Hikawa's hands. If I hadn't used the Amala network to get here, I wouldn't have noticed either. But something's very off about the flow of Magatsuhi here. It's cleverly disguised, but this magnificent contraption is nothing more than bait. The real core must be located somewhere else inside the base. And that's where we'll find Hikawa. Damn. Maybe I'd better not stick around. I know the Mantra's commotion has pretty much died down. That being said, there's still more danger to come. As much as I wanted to see Hikawa in person, I doubt I'd make it to him alive. So I've got no choice but to head back. On your way here, did you see a corridor you couldn't enter? One that was spinning? I managed to deactivate it. So you should be able to go through now. That's about all the help I can give. Dealing with Hikawa is all on you. You've come this far, so there's no point turning back now. Good luck.
To be fair, that reminds me, I completely forgot to mention it last video, but when you first meet with Gozu Tenno, he gives you the ability to store 2 more demons. That's how you get access. It's not like, say, like in Persona, they let you store more Personas once you hit certain level thresholds. In Nocturne, no, it's plot-based. You can only have so many demons in your storage until you first meet Gozu Tenno, and then first encounter another event later. And then your amount that you can store gets increased. So early on, you can't actually have that many demons, because there's not that many. But as the game gets more and more, you need it. You need them more and more, so it becomes more manageable to keep on top of it. If you don't go and talk to Hijiri and try and go down this corridor, it will be all over the place and you won't be able to access it. Like, all the room will be spinning sort of thing. It's just, yeah, you won't be able to get through here. You have to go talk to him first before you can. But when you're ready, descend down to basement 10 and get ready to approach the actual dungeon. There's strong power beyond the door. Will you enter? The moment you do, the dungeon officially begins. Those idiot Mantra demons fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. They're probably high-fiving each other, thinking they destroyed the core unit. Power's nothing without brains. It ain't the size of the muscle, it's how you use it, you know. Who are you? I don't know who you're with, but it looks like you have some brains. You just want to make a name for yourself by taking Commander Hikawa's head, huh? Just our luck. We were getting bored of this Mantra stupidity. We need to welcome our guests and show them off comfortably to the afterlife. Die! God, the fucking Incubus. The Incubus's design has... I think there's a couple demons in the Atlas Megaverse that you see their design once and they never leave you, despite the fact you desperately wish they did. The Incubus is one of them. The moment you see the Incubus, you hit you and you go, oh god. And then every time afterwards you go, oh fuck, it's that thing. You just don't like it. The worst offender will always be Mara. Fully developed Mara will always be one that will stick out in people's minds. And the thing is, there isn't actually a encounterable fully developed Mara at this point, like in the main journey. I can't remember if you can fuse one later, But you can encounter an incomplete Mara later in the game, which I will be doing because it's somehow you get a Magatama, and so the very moment it becomes available, I'll beeline over there and get it. But the general gimmick of this place is that there are 4 keys, essentially, to get back to this main room. This is also a main terminal here, so you can warp here when you need to, or warp out if you need to use a Fountain of Life. And so, literally just opposite the puzzle rooms, like, it's kind of rude not to. But you're going to be proceeding through the dungeon to track down these 4 keys. You start with 1, so you're only tracking down 3, really. But you need to go through these rooms to do so. An infiltrator? Did you come here after Commander Ikawa? Yes. Commander Ikawa is on floor B15 of the core. But you need the 4 keylers, stakes that control the Magasushi in the structure, so to get to him. You saw those 4 pedestals on the way here, right? Use the keylers there. Occasionally, there are visitors like you, but they all disappear up ahead. They all fall prey to the traps made by the great Commander Ikawa. So, why tell you all this? I figure you have the right to know before you die. Yeah, well, we'll see, mate. This is how this works. You get a tutorialized version of it to begin with, but you're essentially, there's a bunch of cube rooms that have certain walls open and certain walls closed. Around the place are switches. When you flick a switch, certain rooms will swivel on its axis, meaning that the parts of the walls that are blocking off routes will change. So to give an example of this one, we flick the switch, the camera will zoom out to show the whole room, and you see that room swiveled, opening up more walls, and that one swiveled to open up a different wall as well. That's how it works. So now we can follow it and go around. Nab this as we go to get 2 Tetrager rocks, because that rock is a tease. That is a hint, a teaser that you need to be aware of, is that there is a mini-boss coming up that will spam the shit out of instant kills and will catch you eventually if you don't use something like Tetrager rocks to save your skin. But in this first one, just press every switch you come across and it will solve it for you. Obviously later on it won't be that simple. This is just a tutorial bit of the puzzle to give you an idea of what you're expected to do. Have you got a chakra drop? I mean, sure, I have one, mate. Okay, thanks. He's happy. Here's some cash. Oh, that wasn't worth it. God damn it, I was hoping you joined the party. The only reason I ever agree and listen to demons when they try and initiate a talk with me is because I'm hopeful that they will just join. That they'll just go, yeah, okay, and just save me the hassle. Because I have a terrible habit of forgetting to negotiate. Like, I do my grinding in the Labyrinth of Mana, where you straight up can't, and then I get it into my head that you can't, and then just forget. And then that ends up biting me in the arse later on, where I haven't fused any demons, because I haven't got any materials to fuse into to make them stronger. Like, you'll end up making a lot of this adventure slightly harder than it has any right to be much later on, because I know I'll just forget. Like, I'm trying to make a habit of getting better with it, it's just, oh god, okay, don't use ice on those guys. But it happens. Tornado is still nice to have. Tornado will lose its significance eventually, but for this early into mid-game, it's still very handy to have around. But once you escape the puzzle and exit out the exit points, you'll usually find another treasury, which will have a mini-boss of some kind ready waiting for you before you can get the next keylers. I'm Eligor, one of the fallen angels. I got the keeler under the order of the commander. Now, you seem to have some brains, like those mantra fools. I like those with intelligence. To show you my respect, I will kill you painlessly. I won't let you have the keeler. Die! The Eligor wouldn't be so much of a threat if it wasn't for the fact that we fight it more than now this time. We're going to fight this son of a bitch a number of times. There's a number of encounters with this thing as well that are entirely optional. If you go the wrong way in the tunnels later on, you go through a door, there might be like a treasure, then when you come out, you'll go, hey, that was mine, and then he will fight you. Or if you take the wrong corner, he'll just be one round the corner that will just like appear and then say, haha, you walked straight into me, we must fight now. Like he's goddamn Majima in Yakuza Kiwami or something. But these guys are more annoying just because they have things like Beast Eye. And Beast Eye is a demon, an enemy-only skill. I was going to say demon-only, but you've got demons, so it doesn't make sense. It's an enemy-only skill. You can never, ever get Beast Eye. Beast Eye replaces your turn with 2 pressed turns. Well, 2 pressed turns, like 2 half turns sort of thing. So you spend 1 turn to gain 2 more. So it makes sense for certain bosses' encounters of making it, spicing it up so they can have more turns to balance out the power you'll be getting as it goes on. But there's another version of it later on called Dragon Eye, which replaces your one with 4. Both of these, if the enemy so chooses, can be used several times. They won't, almost for the most part. There's one very infamous exception. That's like the other boss that can be absolutely bullshit next to Matador if you're not ready for him. But this boss I'm talking about genuinely is bullshit if you're playing on hard, because it's literally just down to luck. And that's Mott. There's a boss later on called Mott. Although this is the introduction of enemies will use instant kill skills in here and can just end your run. So make sure to use every save point you pass by and weigh up when it's wise to use those defense against the instant kills. But Mott, let's say it's way later in the game yet, so it'll be a long time before we talk about him again, can spam Beast Eye. Something went wrong with his AI when they were programming him, especially on hard mode, where he can use Beast Eye several times. So he can keep on sacrificing a turn to gain 2, then he'll just use it again, sacrifice one of those 2 to get another 2, use it again, sacrifice one of those, and suddenly he has 5 or 6, maybe even up to 9 odd turns that he's just built up by spamming Beast Eye, and then he will just do attack and magic boost, Megadoleon, which is almighty, and as I've said before, almighty is non-elemental. It's physically impossible for you to be weak or resist in any form or fashion almighty attacks. They will always connect and do neutral damage. But you'll do Megadoleon, which is the highest tier, Megadoleon, you're all dead. And if it didn't kill you, maybe another Beast Eye and 2 more Megadoleons. And I'm not kidding. If your fortune happens to play that way, the game can guarantee, even at level 99, you will die. Because it will just boost itself, nerf you, give itself more turns, boost itself, nerf you, give itself more turns, use a skill that can't be blocked or resisted, and spam the shit out of it. And because all almighty attacks are group wides, even if you, by some miracle, survive, your demons probably won't. Because as I've said before, you tend to end up stronger than any of your demons ever will be. Especially if you're doing it right, you will be very powerful by late game. But yeah, Mott, like I said, is on hard mode more so. On normal, he's never given me too much trouble on normal. Like, he will use Beast Eye sometimes more than he should, but I've never been bullshit killed on normal. Touch wood, I haven't got there yet in my recording. Oh, that was unfortunate. They drain ice. I completely forgot about the Fornius' draining ice. Which also, yes, the tutorial boss is now a normal enemy. Get used to that, early game bosses becoming late game enemies, or mid to late game enemies. So I wouldn't say this is late game at all. We're a very long way away from there yet. The only thing is that an analysis costs a turn. In Persona games later on, they make it so analysis doesn't. It's just something that's there. Or like in Persona 3, you activate it, and then a turn later you get the results back. But in Nocturne, it spends a whole turn. Oh, here's one of the what I mean, where Demon Guard an Eligor just breaks into you here and just introduces himself. But it costs a turn to use Analyze, and there's no way of rechecking it after you've done the analysis. Which is annoying, because then it means the entirety of this game, you have to kind of work off memory of what's weak to what. Some are easy to remember and work out. And if you spend a long time in a dungeon, you're obviously going to remember the 4 or 5 enemies of that dungeon. But there's a lot of instances where you're going to see me hit an enemy with an element that they resist, block, drain, reflect, or whatever. And then later on, use the same skill on the enemy, because I just forgot. Thankfully, these little things that this Eligor in particular seems to be spawning is weak to light, so I can get away with instant kills. If you're weak to a light or dark skill, like weak to an instant kill, all that will mean is that it's a higher chance of connecting. Speaking of instant kills connecting, I guess I deserve that. Still annoying. The Yakas. These guys you can just hammer to death. And it doesn't mean it's not guaranteed, it just means there's a higher chance. Even if you're resistant to light and dark, that doesn't mean you're safe from them. Unless you block, reflect, or drain, you're still in danger if you resist. It's just far less likely. But you're going to see as this place goes on, this is the first real dungeon where you really start to feel a lack of mana refill if you don't have it yet, which I don't at this point. I'm just shy of it. And so throughout this, you're going to see as it goes on, the endurance side of this dungeon starts to show its face. It really starts to beat itself and put itself on full display of how dangerous it actually is. The good old endurance tests. To be fair, I don't mind endurance tests in a lot of games, as long as it feels manageable. Like the infamous one that always gets criticized is Final Fantasy III's Crystal Tower, the final dungeon of that. Where if you're playing it on the NES version, it's a straight up grind where you need to grind up like 20 levels just for the final dungeon. It goes on forever, and a lot of the late game content sucks, and there's no save points for the entire end game, and so it's brutal. I personally don't think it's that bad on the PSP remake. I think the PSP remake really pulled it back and fixed a lot of its problems. Even though I still see people hate on it and say, no, it's still the worst thing ever on the PSP and DS remake. And I'm like, what? No, I've played both, and I can tell you for a fact, it is a hell of a lot more manageable on the PSP and DS remake. But speaking of Final Fantasy, it was noticed that on the App Store, they've changed the titling of the Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy IV remakes to Final Fantasy III 3D Remake and Final Fantasy IV 3D Remake. Which they always were, because Final Fantasy IV has a 2D HD sprite work remake on the PSP, and it's still the best version of 4 by a country mile, the PSP version. But people have noticed that they've changed its titling to 3D Remake, and with E3 coming up in just a few days now, because it is, as of this recording, the 8th, so it'll be up tomorrow on the 9th, so it literally, when this goes up, 3 days short of the proper start date of E3. Because I know we got Summer Games on the 10th, but E3's proper start date is the 12th, my time, living in the UK. And so that's where, like, stuff will happen. And it's the Square Enix presentation is one of the ones I'm most intrigued by. I'm curious about the Microsoft Bethesda one, because I'm not really a Bethesda person, but this is the first Bethesda big event since the Microsoft buyout. So I'm curious to see if stuff's changed, if anything. So I'm not the biggest Bethesda person. If you've been with this channel for a while, I've gone on record of saying I wasn't a big fan of Skyrim personally. I can see the appeal and I can see why it exploded in popularity the way it did. It just wasn't my thing. I couldn't get into it. And it's just like, and it's not like, say, like the Fallout games. Like, I love New Vegas, but I don't like 3, and I certainly don't like 4. I think 4's boring as hell. So I know that's my opinion. If you like them, that's up to you. I just wasn't keen on 3 and straight up found 4 boring. But New Vegas I thought was brilliant, you know, the one not made by Bethesda. And so my track record with Bethesda games, the last actual proper Bethesda game I can say hand on heart I genuinely enjoyed was Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I really enjoyed Morrowind as a kid. I loved playing that. I struggled with Oblivion, but Oblivion I gathered was a stepping stone of getting Elder Scrolls on consoles properly. And so it never... although it had its problems, and there's a lot of it I'm not keen on, like I wasn't a big fan of the Oblivion gates, I still enjoyed it as a whole. It was just, I enjoyed it with like a grain of salt of, I know it can be better than this though. But Skyrim I just couldn't get into it. I think my interest in Elder Scrolls titles has long since passed, because even when the inevitable Elder Scrolls 6 comes around, I probably won't pick it up unless it really mixes up the formula. Like, I just don't really have an interest. But I'm curious to see if this mix-up of the formula in any sense is going to happen now Microsoft own them. Like, if that's going to lead to anything. And I know they're working on their Starfield game. I think it's Starfield. I might be wrong on the title there. It's Star something or other. And so I know they're working on that, and I'm sure that'll be fine too, but I'll probably wait on that too, because I'm not the sci-fi geek I used to be. Like, I'm not really into the sci-fi stuff that much nowadays. Like, I don't mind it, it's not my go-to. Like, unless it's something like Cyberpunk-ish, and I say that as someone who hasn't touched them Cyberpunk 2077, and I have no intention to ever at this point. Even when they fix all its problems, I think it's just a bullet I'd rather just avoid for now, and just leave it. This is a nice little catch though, a little spin. They wait until you pick up the item and go to leave before you get stopped by a Berith. Or Berith. Put down the killer, be gone. No. I see. Then prepare yourself, for my spirit shall pierce through your insolent skull. But yeah, I'm interested in that showcase. I'm also curious about what's going on with Halo, because a lot was going on with Halo Infinite last year. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the director up and left, and they delayed the game for a year. Like that's like the quickest summary I can make. Like, the lead developer left and something was delayed for a year, and that kind of put a red flag on everyone's radar of, okay, something's going wrong here. So I'm curious to see, now it's been a long while since then, what's changed and what's happening with the game. If it's getting like a major change, if it's still even going to come out anytime soon, or if it's been delayed near indefinitely until future talk kind of thing. Like, if it's going to just, we don't have a release window until it's ready kind of approach. Or if they want to release it this year, or what's the general idea with it. But I am curious to see what's going on. Even as someone who is very disgruntled by the absolute disaster that was Halo 5. And that might be a bit harsh, but genuinely, as someone who actually genuinely loves the lore of Halo and loves playing the story mode stuff of it, Halo 5 was insufferable. It was miserable, it didn't make any fucking sense. Characters just threw out things that didn't have a reason to. Acted in ways that made no sense to their characters be developed, and then the story wrapped up in like 2 hours, and you're like, well, that was a waste of goddamn time. And I know that game had a lot of problems with being rushed and teams bumping around, because Microsoft was desperate to have a like signature title on the Xbox One, because that was around the time that it was really falling apart in sales compared to the PS4. But still, they should have let it go. They should have let it delayed it and given it time to clean it up, because it so desperately needed it. But other than that, I'm sure Sony will do something. I'm curious about Final Fantasy 16, and I'm also curious to see if it'll be on Sony's showcase or not Microsoft, Square Enix's showcase, because it's Square Enix's property, obviously, but they've got a deal with Sony, and things like the 7 remake was teased when it came back, like when it came back after its 4-year absence in 2019. It was first showcased in a Sony State of Play, and then got its big explosion at E3. So Sony might have said, can we put it on our show? What I think will happen is that we'll get a trailer for it in the Sony showcase, or maybe during Summer Game Fest, and then a proper breakdown of stuff in E3. I know, and they said that Eidos Montreal is going to announce something new, and as much as I desperately want it to either be something to do with Tomb Raider, whether it be a remaster of the Classic Collection, which if you've been with the channel for a while, you know that's what I've been begging for a long ass time. The Legend Trilogy in particular to come back, because I'd love to cover the Legend Trilogy. I'd have to rearrange my schedule of what I'm doing, my order of games, but I'd abso-fucking-lutely make sure that I can get at least Tomb Raider Legend in at some point this year if that gets announced. Like, I'll probably do it in between Neptunia and the Final Fantasy 7 remake playthrough, assuming the final chapter of the 7 remake is unblocked with the Intergrade release, which I imagine it will be, because Square Enix has actually been pretty good with doing that over the years, of like having the final chapter be a blocked scene at launch, and then once it doesn't matter, getting rid of the block. The bonus story of Intergrade, the intermission with Yuffie, might be blocked, and if that's the case, I'll work with that when we get to it. But I'm not going to stress about that yet, because that's a long way off. We got this game and Neptunia minimum yet. Because no matter what, I'm doing Neptunia after this. Neptunia Reverse, the remaster of the first game for PS5. That makes the most of the PS5 hardware. And to be fair, I'm enjoying it. I'm playing Reverse alongside this, on and off, because I know Reverse is a lot shorter of a game, because it's like the very first Neptunia, remaster or not. So it's also like the shortest. Like, it's like 30 hours long on your first playthrough, so it's not going to be as long as, say, like when I did Net Victory 2, or the 4th game. It's going to be a hell of a lot shorter, and it'll be even shorter if they do the same thing for the 2nd and 3rd game, which I've got a theory they will. I'm really suspecting a Neptunia Reverse 2 and Reverse 3 later on, which will be just PS5 versions of the 2nd and 3rd game, with the same sort of bells and whistles that this one's got. And I kind of want them to an extent, but at the same time I know it's an awkward one. Like, I don't want them to rush into it and be like, here's Reverse 2 and here's Reverse 3. What? You want a new game? I'd rather them say, oh, here's a 5th new game that's being worked on, but while you wait, here's Reverse 2 and 3. Something like that. Because if they just say, oh, here's a remaster of 2 and here's a remaster of 3, more people are going to get annoyed at this, well, what's going on with the mainline 5th game? They talked about it years ago, like in 2018, I say years, like in like 2018, they said that they're working on a new mainline title, and it's going to completely exceed our expectations. Well, we're waiting, And like they made it clear that it was talking about a mainline title. They're not talking about this remaster of the first game Reverse. They're not talking about the Ninja spin-off that's going to be a crossover of Senran Kagura that's coming out presumably next year in the West. They're talking about a new main entry, and that's yet to come around. Is this where I swap back to Might, or is this where I'm starting to get paranoid about the instant kills? Yeah, I think I was starting to get paranoid by the instant kills, so I was like, okay, let me just try and put on something else, and I'm getting close to unlocking Might anyway, so I might as well put on this one so I can get Might, because Might, as I said before, boosts your crit hit rate, and it can really save your neck sometimes. If you have Might and Counter, sometimes they work hand in hand. Yeah, it's a bit of a, you have to get lucky, but sometimes they do work hand in hand, and it's really nice when they do. We picked up a new item, the Wagtail Plume. It's a damage-based item, sort of like a Miragi Rock, where it's like a fire rock, but it's mind damage to a party in an item. So you're probably not going to use it. As I clear out more of this area. Yeah, this is where I start going full on just skipping encounters. Because the encounter rate of this place just gets higher and higher. This is the first real dungeon where you feel that the Nocturne encounter rate in some areas. Where just at random points it would just like throw double or triple encounters at you. There are other points where it leaves you alone for like a good 30 seconds, which is nice. But it's not often. As I'm just working my way back. Because we're approaching the main meat of the puzzle and the bit that people tend to get a little stuck on. The third chunk. That pause there was me checking my notes. This dungeon was the first dungeon that I did that I knew I needed to do a practice run, so I did it before I went in to make sure I know what I'm doing with the puzzle. So if you ever see me stop and stand still for a second, it's me glancing at my notes from my practice run of what switches I should be flicking and what ones I shouldn't. Because I spent a good like 3 hours just experimenting in here to make sure I get the perfect and quickest route down. So when I do the recorded run, I know exactly what where to direct you guys. Even though I haven't really spoke about it, you guys can look at this and go, oh, okay, so he's doing this, this, and this. When you enter the third room, though, the puzzle gets ramified, because there's an enemy in here that's going to flick the switches itself to block your path. So now, see, he's flicked that switch, so we can't get out easily. Now that's blocked off. But as you can see, in front of us, they're still linked to a room that doesn't have a floor because of the way that's been swiveled round. You can jump through that. Do so. To make sure you keep up, I will direct my commentary more to this puzzle. Don't go to the ladder on your left. Go all the way to the bottom, then go left and take this ladder. Because you're trying to essentially encourage the demons to act early. Because once this demon has flicked the switch 3 times, he will leave you alone. But you're trying to make it so he flicks the switches that will be the most solvable. So you go down here and make him flick that switch, which blocks off more paths. Now we're trapped here. Our only option is to go back down that ladder. But now we can go around and go back up the ladder that was on the left to re-flick it to open the path again. So it's just a bit of time wasting here on this bit of the puzzle. But it does it. The demon will only show up 3 times, so it's just wasted its second use. So just go down, go around, back up, and flick this switch. Switch, will you operate it? Yes, I will. Which will give us access to those edges again. There we go. And then we can go back down, back up the other one, and now we can get access to the edge until, you know, the demon messes with us again. So up this one we go. Like, it's a bit of back and forth on this one. It's not too bad. And I skip encounters a lot more often in here too, unless it's something really significant, because then I can keep more focus on the puzzle. Go along the right wall all the way to the top here, so you can flick the switch on the end. Yeah, here's me checking my notes again, just to be sure I know where I'm going. So flick this switch. So now that first switch is also corrected. That first one that the enemy afflicted. So now, as you can see, we can go all the way around and back up. But as I said, the demon shows up 3 times, so we're not quite done yet. As you go the head round, well, other than the fact that we get another demon encounter, but as you go the head round, the demon will show up again and block your path one final time. I wonder why I kept this encounter in. Because we've encountered these enemies before. Every now and then I know, like, in my editing I keep an encounter in, not because it's significant, but because I'm skipping most encounters, so you're not really seeing the gameplay. So I keep 1 or 2 in so you actually see how my fights are going, especially now I'm low on MP. Gives me checking my notes again. Yeah, just go all the way around the edge. Because I'm pretty sure I do. I don't think you go through the middle yet, because I think the demon interrupts. Saying Lifestone. Oh no, I pick up this item then backtrack, I think. Yeah, pick up the item then backtrack, because the demon will trigger when you try and go, like, to the exit. And it will block off that item. Yeah, come on past me, work it out. So you go round. But you can see that I'm being wary of my footing, because I'm making sure to check my notes and whatnot. And this guy will appear up here to try and stop you one last time. But after this, he will leave you alone. So you just need to flick that switch again. But you can see with the way the path changed, our path is blocked one last time. But we can't get to that corner either. So what you need to do is go to the switch in the top right, the one that was first flicked by the demon. Flick it again so it gives us access to the far left. Flick the far left, go all the way back around to the far right, then we can go through the middle. So it's kind of simple in that sense. It's just go all the way around the right edge, right wall, flick the switch, then go all the way around the edge to the other end. You'll see it's pretty much a linear path after we flick this switch. Just don't do anything reckless as you go. So you do that, and you can see the path does just go all the way around in like a linear string. Oh, there was me muddling my square and triangle. Let me bring up the map for a second. This game is triangle for map, square for menu. And in almost every JRPG ever, triangle is menu. So every now and then I press triangle to bring up the menu and it brings up the map. And I'm like, no, wait, this game's square. This game's awkward. It's just where it's just a bit older, so that standardization isn't quite there. We wanted to do its own thing and not just be Final Fantasy, where it was always the top face button. Which, to be fair, was still a thing until not that many Final Fantasies ago. Well, they kept it as the triangle button for a long-ass time. But now we flick this, everything but the final path is open, so we need to go all the way back around to the other side to flick the switch one final time. And look at all the Magatsuhi spinning around under us. All that red energy, that's what it is. That's all like the demon lifeblood. Like the demon planet lifeblood. I keep on going to say the mantra. This is the Nihilo. The Nihilo are draining heavily to power something. So we need to try and stop it before that power gets used to do more damage than just deal with the mantra. Hikawa very much has his own reason and is determined to make it go through by sheer power. By draining all the Magatsuhi, demolishing anything that stands in his way. So he's the only one left to take the reason and take his path. But once you get in here, we're approaching the last one. As we get even more encounters. Oh god, this room. None of these rooms open right now. You're going to see I'll go to check them because I can't remember. At the time I didn't remember if this was the puzzle room I was thinking of, if it was later. But no, this is the puzzle room. Those demons that was messing with us, that wasn't actually just one warping around. That was 3 of them individually warping around, which is why there's only 3 instances, because they all flick 1. Those enemies are become my first reset. I don't die to them, I actually beat them, I just reset afterwards because they used like a group-wide instant kill and it hit almost my entire party. And it was just after that I was like, well, fuck, okay, I'm resetting because that's just, I'm not sticking with that. And there's an S terminal right here, so you might as well just reset and do it again. But essentially you're going to run through the corridor, chase them, and then you're going to find the enemy and it's just going to run away with the kilo. And so you're going to have to chase it, and you chase it back to that puzzle room, and it's hiding behind one of the doors. You pick a wrong door, you're punished for it, but if you pick the right door, you fight them. They always go to the same door first, so you can get them immediately if you know where that door is. There's also 3,000 marker just casually there for a little extra top-up money. But as you can see, Uzume, where she's got mana refill, you see how earlier in the part, like, everyone had like 1 MP and I've had to use items, and now Uzume's like at full? That's the beauty of mana refill. If you can get mana refill on several of your demons, it is legendary. But when you come over here, this box is empty, and when you go to leave, this voice will challenge you and kind of mock you and then start running away. This thing. I'm Kaiwan. Sorry, but I can't let you have tequila, so take a hike. Ha ha ha. He fled. So if you just backtrack through all the rooms back into that main room, that's where he fled to. He hides in there. Oh, there he goes, floating away. Another encounter to cut. There's so many here. It's not the worst offender. There's a couple areas later on where it gets ridiculous. Nocturne's encounter rate is kind of all over the place in some parts of the game. But that's one of... This is one of the areas where you notice it can be quite strong. Especially on hard mode, because every fight counts in hard mode. But this is the puzzle room. It's on your... Not your first, not your second, but your third door on your left when you enter this room. This door. Door's unlocked. Will you enter? Yes, we will. That's right, I'm the real one. I had my fun, and you have potential. It's a shame I have to kill you. No more fun and games. Right, this is how my first attempt went. I won the fight, this was the last one left, and just like 2 HP left, it used Marmudoon. It catches both of my girls. It catches 2 demons, and I was like, alright. Literally, I killed the fight, I finished the fight, and then I just reset my save. I just loaded my save at the S terminal. But your priority should be lowering its hit and evasion, which, to be fair, it's what I did on the first fight as well. So it was even more frustrating that despite the fact I lowered its hit and evasion, it still got one. It still got one off. So your biggest priority is just don't let it use Mamudo. It will only use Mamudo if there's one left, or if they're on very low health. So if you can get them all killed around the same time, then even better. Alternatively, if there's one left, those Tetrager rocks you picked up at the start of the dungeon, you might want to use them every turn, since you'll probably kill it in 2 or 3 turns anyway. Because these guys don't have that much health. It's more of a mini-boss than a main event. Also be wary of Evil Gaze. Evil Gaze sucks. Evil Gaze, it's a small chance of connecting, but if it does, it always locks your health to 1 HP. It will never kill, it always just puts your HP to 1. It's kind of like White Wind in Final Fantasy IV. Where if that link hit you, it always put your health into single digits regardless. But you see, I'm dropping focuses, so then I can try and one-turn these things. Like, I say one turn, but when their health gets around the range where they can use Marmudoon, then immediately whacking focus on them. This guy can now use Marmudoon because he's on his own. And he keeps on trying to, which makes me concerned. Death Touch, you can use Death Touch. Death Touch isn't an instant kill. Death Touch is just a drain. Is it? Now it's dead. That's how the fight should go. It's a very easy fight. I just got really unlucky on that last one. But we leveled up. I put my strength to 30, so now we can pick up Gaia next time we're in Mantra HQ. And I get Might. So now I have to think of something to get rid of. And I think I get rid of Mind's Eye. Because Mind's Eye just reduces the odds of getting back attacked. But back attacks, you know, still happen anyway. So I was like, less often. Nah, I'll just accept it. And we get the full power of that Margitama as well. Once you've got all the skills, you get their full power, which the game's way of telling you, put on something else, mate. Because you're not getting anything else from it. It's also how your title will change. You see it on my stats, next on to the left of my name, it says Fiend. That title will change as you start maxing out Margitamas. And it's more of like your title is more there to just sort of be like a Medal of Honor to tell you, you've done so many Margitamas. If you max all of them, like, it becomes something really great or like such a thing. Like, the titles just get more and more grandiose instead of it just being Fiend. And you might have saw there, you notice where it said, demons have grown restless at my presence. That's because where I'd reset, I used a repulse spell, which reduces the encounter rate. But once you return here, don't travel back through it, warp to the terminal, and then from there, warp to Ikebukuro or something. It doesn't have to be Ikebukuro, it can be elsewhere, but just warp to somewhere where there's a Fountain of Life and heal up before we do the main boss. Which, to be fair, I will be doing not this video. It'll be in the next. So I just want to heal up. We're doing alright on Maka as well, which is nice. Because the next time there's a point where we can buy Magatamas, they're pricey. Very pricey. And while I'm at it, I come over here to the item shop as well. Or the junk shop.
Oh?
So I want to get some more revival beads now I have the money to do so.
Oh?
And is this where I go full 99? No, I'm still being reasonable.
Okay with you?
Yeah, I go for around 50-ish. Later on, I just make it that when you money becomes not an object, you should always have 99 medicines because it's just quick, easy heals that saves your MP. But as we wrap up, next time on Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, we'll be finishing off the assembly of Nihilo or Nihilo, and where it will be just a boss fight and then some cutscenes of what comes afterwards. So it's not that much left really. It's just this video is long enough. But anyway. I'll see you guys then, but until then, you guys take care now. Peace.